Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Aberdeen, so it's been a long time actually since I reviewed a Scottish beer for you, and it's been a long time since I did a review for this brewery as well actually. So we're going to return to Fierce Beer Company for this one, and we're having a look at one of their small batch beers. So this is the New England IPA Red Rye. The style is exactly as the name suggests. It comes in at 7% ABV and it's supposed to be pretty nice. This guy got a 94 I think it was overall on Rate Beer, and I think it was a 3.8 or so that it had when I checked out on Untappd as well. So as I always say, take those ratings with a bit of a pinch of salt, but they can be a fairly decent barometer for telling you how good your beer is going to be. But definitely looking forward to this one. It's been too long since I've reviewed one of the Fierce beers, but hopefully this is a good one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Fierce Beer before. No doubt there will be some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, prefecture, county, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Fierce Beer Company then. So as I've told you before, Fierce Beer are based in Dyce in Aberdeen, which is just a little bit to the northwest of the city, and it began life as the homebrewing experiments of David Grant, who worked for many years in the oil industry. He'd been homebrewing since March 2013, and after hosting a beer and food pairing dinner in May 2015, he decided that he wanted to turn professional because his beers were getting really good reviews from his friends. So David is joined at the brewery by Dave McGarry, who also worked in the oil industry, but he used his redundancy package to put himself on a brewing course at Brewlab in Sunderland as well. But in April 2016 they moved into their brewery in Kirkhill Industrial Estate in Dyce, which is, as I say, to the northwest of Aberdeen, and at the moment they've got a capacity to brew around 800,000 litres of beer per year. They started canning their beers in early 2018, and they now have their own bar on Ship Row in Aberdeen, which is called the Fierce Bar. I do need to go and check that out at some point because it looks pretty nice. Loads of Fierce beers on tap there, and various collaborations and some other breweries as well in there. But they want to move their brewery to a more kind of central location in the city of Aberdeen and have a nice restaurant and kind of city centre brewery and stuff like that. I probably guess quite similar to what Wylam have done in Newcastle. But this is a brewery that are doing some really nice stuff. Probably one of the best rated Scottish breweries at the moment, and quite rightly so from what I've heard. They're starting to experiment quite a little bit as well. I do need to try their Cafe Racer, which is their I think that's meant to be one of their kind of signature beers, the porter, so I do need to make sure I get a bottle or a can of that at some point for you. But they've started doing these small batch beers as well to just test how they go, but apparently these ones are very good. And this of course was another beer that I picked up at the Hop Knocker in Durham, but I do need to get back up to Aberdeen and get a few more of these because it's, as I say, it's been a long time since I reviewed a Fierce beer, but I've heard very good things, particularly about the stuff that they've been putting out there recently. But a really interesting brewery. In a way I guess these guys have sort of filled the void that Brewdog have left in a way, because Brewdog were doing all these kind of crazy beers in Aberdeen in the early days, but they've of course gone a little bit more commercial. But I think Fierce Beer have kind of stepped up and filled that void in Aberdeen. So long may it continue, long may they continue to do good beer, and we'll see how many I can review over the next little while. But that's all you really need to know about the brewery just now. If you want to learn more, of course, check out the brewery website in the description below. They've got nice descriptions of the brewery, they've got a blog there that you can keep up to date. They do lots of different tap takeovers and stuff at the Fierce Bar as well. So follow the bar on Facebook, follow the brewery on Facebook, and check out their website as well. But let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one then. Nicely presented. It is, you know, it's quite plain, this one, but again, it's just a small batch beer that they're putting out just to kind of test how it does with the public. But this one, as I said, has been really quite highly rated. On the back here it says, a fierce seasonal brew. This New England style IPA has a classic low bitterness and full velvety mouthfeel. To make this a little more interesting, we've added in rye and melanoid and malts to add a little colour and spice. A massive amount of American hops are used during whirlpool and dry hop stages to give huge tropical aromas, backed up with a juicy citrusy finish. It doesn't say what hops are in this one. It tells you a little bit about Fierce Beer on the side there. You can pause that as well and have a little look. But yeah, it says follow them on Facebook, Twitter, Untappd and all these kind of things, and they must be exporting to Scandinavia now because they've got the Krona pant on their beers as well. So I need to see when I get back to Sweden in August if they have their beers over there. I'll definitely need to keep an eye on that. But yeah, nicely presented. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this one. A 7% New England red rye sort of combination IPA, this one. I think it'll be really interesting. So yeah, look at that. That's quite an interesting colour. It's almost got a little bit of a kind of red tinge. The beers that I've had this sort of colour before have tended to be like sour beers and stuff like that, which is quite interesting. But you can smell some of these lovely fruity qualities off it. But yeah, look at that. Really dark, almost coppery orange colour there. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can see that beer is, you know, pretty much opaque. There's a solid finger and a half, I would say, of a frothy, very slightly sort of fawn, beigey coloured head on this beer. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there, and you can smell some lovely kind of tropical fruit notes coming off this beer. But let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Ooh, I'll tell you something, that smells pretty bloody nice, I have to say. So there's a lot of tropical fruit coming off this one, as the can suggested. I think there's mango in there, maybe a little bit of passion fruit. When you take it in a little bit more deeply, you can really get the rye coming out of this one. You can smell that slightly spicy rye note in the beer. But yeah, I think there's a wee bit of orange in there as well. I wonder if there's a bit of Amarillo in that beer. There has to be a little bit of orange in there. I reckon maybe a little bit of mango as well. I think there's some citra, because you can pick up a little bit of the lychee on the back end of this beer, which I always find the citra gives you mango and lychee. It's always fun, of course, to guess the hops that they're putting in beers based on the aromas and the flavours and things like that. But I reckon there's a bit of Amarillo, but of course it could be Pacifica or something like that, one of the other hops that gives you the orangey flavours. Maybe there's a wee bit in Mosaic as well, because it has a little bit of that almost blueberry quality to it. But definitely some nice sort, and that could, of course, with the tangerines you get from Mosaic, that could explain that a little bit. But I think this one, it's got a little bit of passion fruit to it, I would say, not too much, definitely mangoes, and I think there's an orangey quality to this beer as well. I think there's some lychees coming out and maybe a little bit of a blueberry note to it as well, so I suspect there's maybe a little bit of citra and Mosaic in there, and there might be one or two other things too. But yeah, there's a nice bit of a floral aromaticity to this one as well. You can definitely pick up a little bit of a spicy quality. There's a sort of caramelly, biscuity flavour to it as well. Or aroma, I should say, sorry. But the rye sort of spice is definitely coming out of this one. It's a really interesting aroma, this beer. So definitely take just a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of it before you get stuck in. But yeah, it smells nice. The malt base is really interesting. You can pick up a little bit of the oaty kind of creamy sweetness from this one, but the spicy character there makes it quite unusual for a New England IPA, of course. But that's the whole idea. It's meant to be an experiment, this beer. But without further ado then, let's get stuck into it. So this one, name the New England IPA Red Rye from Fierce Beer up in Dyce in Aberdeen. It should be a really nice beer. It shouldn't have been so long since I reviewed one of the Fierce beers, but we'll make sure that doesn't happen in the future. Let's get stuck in. Slanja, Skull. Yeah, I'll say straight away, thumbs up to Fierce Beer on this one. That's a good beer. It's the malt, as I say, the malt base makes this one quite unusual. I'm finding the rye is coming out a little bit more in the aftertaste, but it really does work actually. It works quite nicely. That's really interesting how that comes out, because you've got a little touch of earthiness from the hops as well, and that blends really well with the sort of rye flavours coming out of this beer. It's really quite an interesting one, this. If you get the chance to try it, have a go at it for yourself, because it's one of these ones where it's all, I would say this beer is all about how the flavours blend together. It's not where it's not one where something in particular is jumping out at you, but the unique point of this is the way that the rye interacts with that malt base, as the name would suggest, you know, duh. But it really works, this one. So you can feel with the malt base in this one, there's a little bit of that kind of pale malt bready quality that just goes right across the middle of your palate there. That's forming the baseline of this beer. You can feel there's a little bit of an oaty, kind of creamy quality to this beer in the middle of your palate too. If you go right down the middle line of your tongue, there's a slightly biscuity sweetness to the beer as well. And it just forms this nice, really nice kind of sandwich there. And as the beer mellows out, that as you start to progress further and further into the aftertaste, that's when the rye starts to push its way out of the beer too. And it's really nice how everything just goes together in this beer. And the rye, like I said, builds a good bridge between the malt base and the hoppier side of things, because in the back corners of the palate, you've definitely got a little touch of an earthy quality to this beer. There's maybe even a little note of a little bit of herbal quality to this one, but the earthiness and the way that some of the fruit flavours are coming out, it does make me wonder if there's a little bit of mosaic or something in there, just the way the earthiness is coming out. But yeah, it's a good beer, that. The way it is, the fruity quality on this is really nice as well. So as I was saying with the hops, a little bit earthy at the back. As you move further forward, it becomes a little bit sort of, it does have a little bit of a herbal quality to it. Then as you come further forward beyond that, it's got this quite spicy and floral aromatic note. Then round the very front curve of the palate, you've got that lighter kind of grassy flavour that you always get, and then behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you get that little oily bubble where the nice fruity juicy esters start to come out, and that's where this beer does find a little bit of complexity. But yeah, with this one, I would say, it's a kind of juicy mango-y note that's forming the base of this one. There's maybe a little touch of passion fruit or something like that in there. There is a slightly darker tropical fruit note that forms the kind of base plate of the fruity flavours. On top of that, you start to get a little bit of mango. I think there's an orangey quality to this beer as well as you kind of go further through it. I do suspect, I mean, there's a few things in this beer that are making me think mosaic. I think there's a little bit of a sort of blueberry-ish character. There is a little bit of a red fruity quality to this one as you go further and further into the aftertaste. Lychees, I would suspect there's a bit of citra in there because of the mango notes, and there is a little bit of a kind of lychee flavour to this one as well. But I think there's a little bit of this blueberry quality too, maybe even a little bit of pineapple or something like that. There's definitely a little bit more to the tropical side of things than passion fruit and mangoes. I would say there's something else in there, I reckon. Yeah, but it's just interesting how you can get that nice juicy fruity quality to the beer, and then the rye comes in and just sort of takes over the aftertaste. As you move further into the aftertaste of this one, a little bit of that herbal quality from the hops on the side of your tongue sitting there. Some of the spicy note starts to push its way out a little bit later as well, and that spicy floral note and a little bit of the almost spicy note from the rye as well starts to dominate the aftertaste, but you can feel just a little bit of this juicy fruity quality lingering there on the front of your tongue too. The fruity notes that come out in this one, I think it's lychee and blueberry. There might be a little bit of a more red fruity quality, like a figgy note or something like that coming out of it as well. There's just a little touch of that as you progress further into the aftertaste of this beer, but it's got a really nice blend of flavours, and as I say, this beer for me is all about that blend of flavour rather than having something that's really punchy. But as I say, a big thumbs up to the Fierce Beer guys for this. They've done a good job of that, so I would say if that doesn't become a core range beer or a regular seasonal or something like that, it would be quite disappointing just to see that one kind of fade away, but they've done a good job of that, so thumbs up to them. In terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say mid-bodied. Carbonation is quite I would say it's quite smooth on this one. I would say the mouthfeel overall, there's a little bit of an oily quality to it, but there's a little bit of a creamy flavour as well. There's a good little bit of hoppy bitterness. It's not going to blow your head off in terms of IBUs, right enough, and there's a good balance in the malt base between the sort of sweet, slightly creamy side of things and a little bit of that more grainy, slightly bittery side of things from the rye in this beer, and there's a good little bit of juicy fruity character as well. But as I say, It's a really interesting beer, and it is cool to see that Fierce Beer are experimenting a little bit more and still putting out some really nice beers. So yeah, if you get the chance to try this one, definitely have a go at it. It's a really interesting beer, and it does make me kind of sad to try this one and think how long it's been since I've tried one of the Fierce beers. I wish they had been a little bit easier to get here in Durham, but hopefully when I go back to Sweden they will be a little bit more easy to get. Either that, or I'll just get somebody to stock up for me in Scotland and I'll pick them up when I'm home. But yeah, really nice beer this one, and I'm glad that I got to try it. So let's sign off on that. A really good beer that you definitely need to have a go at for yourself. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Fierce Beer Brewery as well. They're doing some really good stuff these days, and I need to review more of them. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Check out my social media and that until the next time, and I will catch you guys very soon. This was one of the small batch beers from Fierce Beer, the New England IPA Red Rye. Definitely worth checking out. A really interesting beer that's all about how these flavours blend together. So until the next time, slange you just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Skål.